No Embiid against Denver. I didn't want to make this a headline because I didn't want to make it too negative, and honestly, it isn't the headline for it. It's just super disappointing. We've had this happen a couple times. We're all geared up. You're leaving the beach early. You're getting the boat tied up. You're like, I have to go back. It's Jokic Embiid, and you're like, no, it isn't. Although we knew about this a lot earlier. Denver tried to lose this game. It was 110-91. Philly goes on a 20-4 run to make it 114-111. And then it becomes one of those weird things where Jamal Murray has to come back in the game. Jokic is out there closing it. Jokic had an incredible pass to Jeff Green. Yes, his heel was out of bounds. They reviewed it, but they couldn't change the foul call. Whatever. Reviews are fucking stupid, and they waste all of our time, but they're probably not going anywhere. So I think there's a lot of different things you can kind of think here that are all hypothetical that'll mean nothing in 24 hours. And that's, does this impact the Embiid, Jokic, Giannis MVP race? Bill and I disagreed on Giannis still being involved in the MVP race. He's still in it for me. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but Embiid not playing last night against Jokic will not impact my vote at all. It just won't. If we're looking at total games played, Embiid's at 61 games, but Jokic is at 67. So, we ride this out. There's not some huge missed stretch to close here. I think they're all close enough. Giannis is behind both those dudes at 59 games. So the games played thing is not going to be any kind of tiebreaker, at least for me, on the MVP vote. I don't think 6 games is that big of a deal. I wonder, though, if Embiid not playing helped Jokic, not because Embiid didn't play, but because with Jokic, the more I think about like our differences of opinions on who's the better player, I'm going to use a golf analogy. Golf guy over here. Played a couple rounds of 9 holes. Not a big deal. Jokic is the golfer who doesn't really drive it that far. Maybe doesn't even land in the fairway off the tee box all that often, but around the green, he's not fucking it up. He's not getting himself in impossible positions. He's fixing the previous bad shot. He's not chipping it back and forth over the green. He's not 3-putting all the time. And I think Giannis and Joel are the golfers that have like this sick bag, smash it off the tee, like just some nice shots. Their swing looks terrific. And then, they get in the cart onto the next hole and it's like, what'd you get? And like, I had a 5. And Jokic is like, I had a 4. So from the visual of if Jokic last night had gone, or excuse me, if Embiid had gone off last night, which is basically every single night the guy plays, and it was like big time, I think today would have been rough for Jokic. All right. Like even in the Giannis game this weekend, which was a great win by Denver, the beginning of that game, when I was watching what Milwaukee was doing on offense, I was like, man, I don't know, man, this Denver team sometimes I think they're really good. And then sometimes I don't. And I'm not even talking about like their bad stretch because Denver's, figured it out here. But Giannis didn't defend Jokic. I would have loved to have seen it. I would have loved to have seen just something to be disruptive. But when you have Brook Lopez, you don't really need to do it. And Bud is like one of the most, and stubborn's too negative a word, but let's just put it this way. Bud's not changing what he's doing. So he's not going to have Giannis. And look, Giannis isn't going to defend some of the better players. He just isn't, which is a little frustrating too, but I can also understand that his offensive burden, and honestly, that's very common with most of the stars in the league. It's like we're asking so much of this guy to basically be our entire offense, to be the sun in our offense, and then we're going to have him chase Jokic around the whole time. Like that doesn't make a ton of sense, even if I selfishly wanted to see it. Giannis did strip him twice, though. He did strip him twice. And so then you end the game and you're like, oh, Denver wins it. Giannis wasn't like peak Giannis in that game, but Jokic was 31, 6, and 11. You're like, oh, he had 31, 6, and 11. I mean, last night he had 25, 17, and 12, and it felt pretty pedestrian. He now joins Wilt, which is like the new T-shirt this year, joins Wilt the last couple seasons with some of these offensive outbursts that we've seen from all the top guys around the league. But Jokic joins Wilt and Oscar Robertson as the only players in NBA history to have 10-plus games of 25, 15, and 10 in a season. And so those are back-to-back games where if you're watching with Jokic, you're like, it might not look as good as the Giannis 35 and 12 game. It might not look as good as the 38 and 14 game from Embiid. And that might have been the win. Not that Embiid didn't play, but if everybody is watching that game that's obsessed with his MVP race, if you had seen it play out, like hell, who knows? If Embiid had gone for 40 and they lost and Jokic has his 26 12 and 11, or we were 25, 17 and 12. That's the actual number. I wonder, first of all, nobody's giving in. Like, if you're so far left or so far right, you're not changing your mind on any of this stuff. And I always feel like the Embiid part of it is a little nastier. And maybe that's because Embiid has lost. And the one year I had a vote, maybe I see more of it because I voted for Jokic last year. And I have no doubt that I picked the right guy last season. This year, I'm going to have some doubts about it. But I'd ask this to the Embiid people. Would you have been pretty chill if Jokic didn't play last night and Embiid did? So I'm not looking at last night's result going up. Embiid didn't play. Jokic had an awesome game. They won the game. All right, that's a bit of a tiebreaker. These are 6-month awards for me. But I wonder how chill the people saying it wasn't going to be a big deal would be if it were reversed.